Good morning, all. So, how far we have completed in the last session? Yes, somebody? Sai Swarup? Sagar? Sagar, are you online? Yes? Am I audible to you all? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, Sudhanshu, how far we have completed?
सर गॉस लॉ।
Gauss we have just started, right?
नो सर, थोड़ा सा आगे बढ़ गए थे।
क्या हुआ? सुधांशु?
इलेक्ट्रिक फील्ड लाइन वगैरह पढ़ा रहे थे।
अच्छा ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं। So in the last class, we have introduced about Gauss law, and over there I told you that this Gauss law is basically going to work as a tool for the for making the calculation of finding the electric field at any point because of any type of field, whether it is uniform electric field or non-uniform electric field, quite easy. Previously, we have seen a problem on finding the electric field at a distance of x from a straight line segment. And over there, we have done a lot of calculation, and that was proving to be quite strenuous to us. Now, we will study about this Gauss law, and once we understand the concept of Gauss law, we will see that solving such types of problem, particularly for this charged bodies like your line charge, surface charge, volume charge is going to be quite easy on our part. So let us start. So as I told you that in order to venture into this particular Gauss law, we need to have some good idea about this electric flux. Now, electric flux is something we have already introduced, and over there I told you that your electrical flux is nothing but the total number of electric field lines that is passing through an area which is held perpendicular to the electric field. And over there, mathematically, we derive that your phi E is equal to E vector dot product A vector, right? And phi E, over there I told you that in order to differentiate between your magnetic flux and your electric flux, we have introduced this E as the subscript because this is going to differentiate between your electric flux and your magnetic flux. Because your magnet also gives out magnetic field lines, and even though they have some similarity, but still then they have also some dissimilarities between them. We'll talk about them when we'll study about this magnetostatic field. Okay, so in three different cases we have studied. So the first case was a very simple case where we have a uniform electric field and the unit area is held perpendicular to it. And over there we studied that your phi E can be simply written as E vector dot A vector. Now again I told you that this entire lines, all of them represent your electric field, whereas only those lines which are actually passing or which are actually piercing this unit area perpendicularly is going to constitute your electric flux. Again we discuss that your area is a vector quantity and the direction is going to be the one from which side we are going to see it, right? Next, we talked about this uniform electric field with the area held at some angle. And over there, we talked that this E vector, it has a component, one along this A L cap direction, the other one is perpendicular to it. Now the one which is perpendicular, the component of the electric field which is perpendicular, which is a perpendicular component or the vertical component, it is going to be tangential to the surface of the area. Therefore, it is not crossing it. Therefore, it is not going to affect our electric flux. So the only component which is actually going to matter is the horizontal component, because this horizontal component is the one which is going to pass through this unit area at 90 degree, and therefore we are going to consider this horizontal component as the one which is going to contribute to the electric flux. So this component, as we all know, is equal to E cos theta, where theta is the angle which the electric field is making with respect to the direction of the area. Now, if we will rearrange it, we are going to get a expression Ea cos theta. And as you all know that your E, that is your electric field, is a vector quantity, and A, the area, is also a vector quantity. So two vector quantity and cos theta, it is nothing but the expression of the dot product between your electric field and your area. So this thing we have also discussed, and the last one that we discussed in the last class is the non-uniform electric field. Now, usually what happens, it is very rare to get a uniform electric field, but most of the time we deal with non-uniform electric fields. Now, in this case, how to calculate the electric flux? So, in that case, we make use of this integration, and the expression is phi e is equal to integration, area integration or surface integration of E vector dot D vector. Now, please remember that this is the most generalized form or the generalized expression of electric flux, because it is not only applicable to non-uniform electric field, but it is equally applicable to uniform electric field. And secondly, it can also be applicable to any electric field, whether it is passing perpendicularly to the area or making an angle. So that is why it is known as the generalized form of electric flux. So last class we have discussed up to this, and I hope everybody would have understood it. Next, next we discussed about this Gauss law. So what does this Gauss law? The Gauss law states that the total flux through a closed surface. Please take into account the importance of this particular word, that is closed surface. We will discuss about this closed surface after this slide. So Gauss law states that the total flux through a closed surface is proportional to the total electric charge enclosed by that closed surface. So mathematically, your phi is directly proportional to Q enclosed. And over here, in order to explain it, I have given one simple hypothetical example. Suppose there is a closed surface like this. Let us say there is a sphere, and inside this sphere, I am having 1 coulomb of positive charge. So naturally, let us say this closed surface is actually a flux of 4 number of electric field lines are coming out in this manner. Obviously, this is a hypothetical case, but in order to understand it, let us consider this one. So naturally, if I am having 1 coulomb of charge which is enclosed by this closed surface, and it is giving me 4 number of electric field lines, then if I will increase the charge from 1 coulomb to 2 coulomb, obviously the number of electric field lines is going to be doubled. Similarly, if the charge is going to be 3 coulombs, then this total number of electric field lines is going to be 12 in number. So one thing is very clear, that your electric flux is directly proportional to the charge which is enclosed by the closed surface. So this is your closed surface. Okay. So this is your closed surface, and the one inside it is the source of the electric field. Right. So if it is a direct proportionality, then obviously there is a constant of proportionality, and the constant of proportionality in this case is equal to 1 by epsilon 0. Now, from the previous slide, we have concluded that the most generalized form of your electric flux is given by phi e, surface integral of E vector dot dA vector. Now we will use this expression, and we know that phi e is equal to E vector dot dA vector. So naturally this one and this one must be equal to each other. So that is what we have written over here. So ultimately your phi e is equal to closed surface integral. Now this closed surface integral is something new to you, but believe me, this is not a complicated thing. It only indicates that I am using a closed surface. Now don't worry, I will explain what is the meaning of this closed surface. So this is equal to E vector dot dA vector and it must be equal to Q enclosed by epsilon 0. So ultimately we can say that, so previously as I told you that this is just half or partial expression of Gauss law, but this is the one which is known as the generalized form of Gauss law. And when we'll move on to the last chapter, that is on electromagnetic waves, we'll see that this law, this Gauss law, is becoming one of the equations of Maxwell's. Okay, so we'll discuss about all those things later on in the last chapter. So at least we came to the conclusion that your Gauss law is given by the total flux which is coming out of a closed surface is equal to the total, is proportional to the charge enclosed, and it is also equal to the closed surface integral of the electric field to the to that of this closed surface area. Please note that this E vector is the component of electric field which is perpendicular to the closed surface. Now what does this mean? That means just have a look at this particular diagram in the example. So over here, there is a closed surface and inside the closed surface, there is a source of electric charge and it is containing 2 coulombs of charge. Therefore, 8 number of electric field lines are coming. Please remember it is a hypothetical case only to make you understand or to simplify the understanding I am using this 8 number of electric field lines. Now what happens, as you can see everywhere, this electric field line is perpendicular to the surface. So over here it is perpendicular, over here it is perpendicular, over here it is also perpendicular. So that clearly shows that the electric field lines which is going to come out of the closed surface is going to be perpendicular to the closed surface. Next, let us clarify what is this open surface and this closed surface. The concept is very simple. So over here, just imagine that I have a piece of paper which can be folded in this manner. So you have a piece like this, and on the left hand side you have another piece connected to it. This is on the right hand side you have another piece. On the top you have this piece, and if you will fold them neatly in a particular fashion, then you are going to get a closed surface. Now this closed surface is nothing but a volume. So in this way, we can say that previously we were using the word surface or simple open surface. Now when we will fold it in a particular manner, it is going to become a closed surface. And in this case, your closed surface is nothing but it is a volume or it is generating a volume. Okay. So when we are dealing with closed surface, we will simply write your phi e was equal to dot dA vector, E vector dot dA vector. But when we are dealing with a closed surface, then obviously there is a little bit change in the expression, and the expression is slightly modified. So in place of a simple integration sign, we are going to use the closed surface integral. Okay, so this closed surface integral will look something like this. Okay. So this is how a closed surface integral is going to look like. So this is a little bit modified. Now obviously why this modification is there? Because previously it was the open surface and you manipulated or you modified it in a particular fashion, so you are getting a closed surface. Therefore, in order to represent that modification, we have introduced this closed integration. Okay. So previously it is a simple integration sign. Now we are using a closed surface integration sign. So this suggests that you are manipulating or modifying the open surface in a particular fashion so as to make it a closed surface. Now please note over here, a closed surface in context to Gauss law is an imaginary surface. Okay, and in reality it doesn't exist at all. Now I will tell you the meaning of this. This imaginary surface is often called your Gaussian surface. So in other words, we can say whenever we are talking about closed surface, we are actually referring to a Gaussian surface. Okay. So whenever I will tell you that the total charge enclosed by a closed surface, I actually mean that the total charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface, which is enclosing a source of charge, must be directly proportional to the total charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. So in place of closed surface, we can very well use the word Gaussian surface. And please remember that whenever we are going to deal with problem, we have to draw a Gaussian surface. And remember, this Gaussian surface actually practically never exists. It is just a imagination. Now let us talk about this Gaussian surface. Okay. Now let us test your knowledge. Now suppose I have a point charge over here. Can anybody tell me what is the Gaussian surface for this point charge? Yes, somebody, anyone who can tell me the answer to this? Yes, come on. What will be the Gaussian surface? Now I have told you that the Gaussian surface or the closed surface is going to completely enclose the source of the charge symmetrically. So if this is the condition, can anybody tell me what will be the type of closed surface which is going to enclose this point charge symmetrically in two directions? Yes, anybody?
Sphere.
Exactly, very good. It will be a sphere. Because you see, and please remember that that sphere will be constructed in such a way, or it should be in such a way that the point charge is going to be located at the center of the sphere. Okay, so your Gaussian surface will be a sphere like this, and you can see that the source or the point charge is going to be located at the center of it. Now, why is it so? It is because I told you that the Gaussian surface is going to enclose the source of the charge, and in this case, it is the point charge in a symmetrical manner. So, in order to achieve this symmetry, always remember that the Gaussian surface must be having its center at the source, right? Now, again, another somebody else tell me, suppose I have a straight line. What type of Gaussian surface will be befitting this straight line? Come on, tell
Cylinder.
me. Yes, exactly. Very good. So it should be a cylinder, and the cylinder must have its central axis along the straight line. That means in order to enclose this straight line, okay, so just imagine that this is a straight line. It is having some positive or negative charges uniformly distributed. Now, if we want to find the electric field, we have to draw the Gaussian surface which is going to completely enclose it. Okay, so naturally in this case it is definitely going to be a cylinder, and this cylinder must be constructed in such a way that it is going to enclose this line symmetrically in all directions. So for that, this line must pass through the central axis of the cylinder. Okay, so thank you very much. You have understood the concept very nicely. Now, suppose I will say I have a cuboid or I have a cube, let us say. Yes, any idea? What will be the Gaussian surface? Yes, if I have a cube.
Bigger,
Yes,
bigger cuboid.
yes, very good. It should be a bigger cuboid in such a way that all the diagonals will intersect at a point, and that point, the center of this cuboid must be present. Okay, so in this way, we have already got the idea about the Gaussian surface. So remember that these Gaussian surfaces are completely imaginary. We are just imagining. Okay, so very good. You people have understood it nicely. Thank you for that. Now let us see how we are going to use the concept of Gauss law, this closed surface or the Gaussian surface, in order to find the electric field. Okay, so let us see how we are going to do that. But before that, there is a simple thing I need to clarify or we need to answer. Okay, now can anybody tell me in figure A? This is your figure A, right? Can anybody tell me what will be the flux in this case?
0.
Yes. Is it going to be 0?
0.
Is it going to be 0? Come on, tell me, confidently you tell me.
Yes, sir.
Yes, of course it will be 0, because what does Gauss law says? Gauss law says your phi E must be equal to the total charge enclosed by the surface. Okay, that is Q enclosed divided by epsilon 0. Now this particular surface is not enclosing any charge. There is nothing inside it. So naturally the total charge enclosed is 0, and therefore the answer over here will be 0. Now what about this one? Case B,
0.
again it is going to be 0 because it is not enclosing any charge. Very good. What about this one? What about case 3?
5 coulomb by epsilon 0.
Great. 5 coulomb by epsilon 0. That's correct. Very good. 5 coulomb by epsilon 0. Now what about this one?
Same, sir.
Last.
5
Yes.
coulomb by epsilon.
Yes?
Same.
How much?
5 coulomb by epsilon naught.
Yes, that's correct. Absolutely correct. Now, in this case, what is the Q enclosed? Let us see. So Q enclosed is equal to 5 minus 3 minus 8 plus 11. So 5 plus 11, it is 16, minus 11. So it is ultimately coming as 5, positive 5, right? So your phi E must be equal to 5 by epsilon 0. So absolutely correct. So very nice. Everybody have understood. I hope everybody have understood these concepts nicely. So once you have understood this thing, now venturing into the application is going to be very, very easy for us. Butter smooth. Okay. Now,
So in the second figure, I have a doubt in second figure.
yes, why not? Tell me.
Here there is 2 lines of force.
Yes, which one?
In the second one, there is 2 lines of force passing through the surface.
Yes, of course.
Then there will be a negative flux.
Now you see, flux is a scalar quantity. Is it yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let us say these fluxes are passing into it, okay, and these fluxes are coming out of it, okay. So whatever flux is entering into it is also coming out of it, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So what is the ultimately what we can say, what is the net flux inside it? It is equal to 0, yes or no?
Okay, sir.
Okay, just imagine. Suppose this is a positively charged conductor, right? And this is a negatively charged conductor. And in between them, we have these lines of electric field. Now it is passing from the positive, it is terminating at the negative. And on the way, you are having this cuboid, right? Okay?
Okay, sir. Now
So
I get
whatever, you got it?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, that's nice. Now let us move on to
Sir,
the
another doubt.
Okay, sure, why not?
Sir, in charges placed in a straight line, that Gaussian surface is made cylindrical,
Yes.
right, sir? Then,
Okay.
then the charge at the top, uppermost point and the
Okay,
lowermost.
I got it. Okay, fine. So you mean to say that I have a straight line like this. So the charges are uniformly distributed, right? So the charges are uniformly distributed. The electric field lines are coming in this manner, right? And what about the top end? Why over here also the charge should come out, right? Is it your
Yes,
doubt?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let me clarify it. When you are considering a line charge, right? Okay. Now on the top, okay, on the top, we consider that the surface area is 0, right? Now just imagine if we are having a cylindrical type of thing like this. Just have a look. I'm having a cylindrical type of thing and it is charged, uniformly charged throughout its entire surface. So on the top, there is a surface, it is positively charged, uniformly positively charged. On the bottom also, it is having a face and this is also uniformly charged. So in this case, the electric field lines will come out in all the curved surface as well as from the top and bottom. Okay, got it? But here we are not considering a cylinder, rather we are considering only a straight line. Okay, and in this case, the top and bottom surface area is considered to be zero. It's considered to be zero, right? So in that case, we can do a very good assumption. We can say that from the top and the end of the string, no flux is going to come out. Got it?
Sir, then what about the points? If a single point charge is there, then there will be a spherical Gaussian surface. And if you consider the point charge is there on single straight lines, uppermost and lowermost, then there will be a spherical
They
curve.
are points. I can understand it. You are telling the right thing. Okay. Now, so when why we are okay, you are absolutely correct. At the top end, it is just a point, and on the bottom also it is just a point. So since we are telling that a point charge is going to give out electric flux, okay, so why not the topmost is going to give out the electric flux and the bottommost is going to give out the electric flux. You are absolutely correct. There is nothing wrong in it, but still then we will say that it is not going to give out. Now why? Okay, now have a look over here. Okay, so as per your idea, which is practically, which is absolutely correct, but we cannot consider it. Now, what is the reason that we cannot consider? Now, look over here. Suppose, let us say, the positive charges are placed uniformly throughout the surface. Okay. Now, if that is the case, now let us say these electric field lines are coming in this direction. Okay, let us say the electric field strength, okay, the electric field strength at any point over here, let us say P, okay, and let us consider another point over here, let us say P dash. So you are saying that since the surface area of the end is just a point, so naturally if a point charge is going to have the electric field lines, then why not the end? That is absolutely a good thing, good question to ask. Now let me clarify why we cannot consider it. Now look over here. The electric field strength at the point P will be much larger than the electric field at the point P dash. Okay, so if let us say over here we are having 10 to the power 2 volt per meter as the electric field, and in this case it will be 0.001. So what is the difference between them? It is around 10 to the power 5 times. So if this is the case, then we can do a good assumption, we can neglect it. For example, suppose I will say 1 plus 0.0001. Let us square it. So if you square it, you are approximately getting 1. Why? Because in comparison to 1, 0.0001 is a very small quantity which we can, to a good assumption, neglect it. Similarly, in this case, obviously the electric field strength at the point P, because of these electric field lines that is radiating outwards, is much stronger than the electric field line which is which is coming out of the end of this straight line. For that reason, to a very good assumption, we can neglect this factor. Okay, got the idea?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, got it.
Okay, fine. So I am very happy that you people are asking questions. Please continue asking questions because this will make the class a little bit more interesting. Obviously, we cannot see each other, but obviously our voices are meeting. So please ask any doubt. Don't consider any doubt to be silly. Every doubt is equally important. Okay? And let me be frank to you. Sometimes I may also can't answer your questions, but obviously, if I can't answer, I will try my best to answer it in the next class. So don't worry. First year students, they used to means puzzle our mind a lot, and we enjoy it. So please keep asking questions. Okay. Now let us move on to the application of Gauss law. So you can see I have made 2 points. Gauss law is used to find the electric field at a particular point due to one, a point charge, the bit 2, or in particular due to a symmetrically uniform continuous charge distribution like line charge, surface charge, and volume charge. So basically we can say that the Gauss law is used to find the electric field at a particular point because of a point charge, number one, or due to charge distributed, symmetrically distributed charge like line charge, surface charge, line charge, surface charge, or your volume charge. Okay, so we will make use of this Gauss law in order to find the electric field because of these types of configuration. Now we have already calculated or we have already derived the expression for electric field due to a point charge. We have already done it for a line charge. Now we will see by application of this Gauss law how easily you can evaluate the electric field at a particular point. Okay, so we'll see all these things, and believe me, you will really feel how much effect this Gauss law have in the calculation part. So it is going to reduce, it is going to boil down your calculation to only one or two lines. Means in comparison to the strenuous integrations mathematics that you are doing in order to find without the use of Gauss law. So we'll see that, and we'll see, and believe me, you people will enjoy finding the electric field by the application of Gauss law. Okay. Now, obviously, we have been talking about the application of Gauss law. Okay. Now, we will have to pinpoint, or obviously these things are not given in the book, but still then I felt that we must pinpoint the various steps that we need to apply in order to find the electric field by application of Gauss law. For that, over here, I have introduced one subsection, procedure of applying Gauss law. So if you want, please note it down because in the book it is not written. So I hope you all are happy with your pen and paper. Just note it down. Please note it down. Instead of drawing the diagram, please note down the points. This is very important because in the book it is not given. But I hope by application of the first two steps, you can easily calculate the electric field by any of the for any of these configurations, whether it is a point charge, line charge, surface charge, or volume charge. And today, if time permits, we will also solve one, and I will tell you. Now write it down. I am giving only 2 to 3 minutes. 2 minutes. Please write it down. So once you have written, please tell me. We'll start. Have you written it?
No, sir.
Okay, okay. Do it fast. Do it fast. Because this procedure is not given in the book. Okay, another important thing, let me tell you, I have shared the PPT of the first chapter, that is chapter number 21 on your email ID. on your section email ID. Hopefully, the coordinator who is in charge of distributing this material will be sending it to you people maybe today evening. Okay, I have dispatched it. So please go through the slides. If you have any sort of doubt in the class itself, you can ask me. No problem. After the completion of this chapter, I will again send chapter number 22 over your group email ID. You people may download it, keep it for yourself, refer it. Okay, so let us start. Procedure for applying the Gauss law. Okay, first one, draw an imaginary closed surface that completely encloses the charge distribution symmetrically. This closed imaginary surface is called Gaussian surface. We have already discussed this one. Okay. So over here I have given one example. So if I am having a line charge, straight line charge, then obviously the Gaussian surface is going to be a cylinder because it is a closed surface. Okay. So it is going to be a cylinder. So the dotted portion is the Gaussian surface. Similarly, for a volume charge, and over here I have taken a sphere. For this sphere, again, your Gaussian surface is going to be a sphere with which is going to have the center, the source at the center, because it is going to enclose the charge distribution symmetrically. So for symmetricity, we have to keep the source of the charge at the center for this volume charge. Similarly, for this line charge, it must pass through the central axis of the cylinder. Next, the Gaussian surface must pass through the point where E vector is to be evaluated. Very simple question. A simple thing. Let me make you understand. Suppose in the previous class, when we were solving the problem of finding the electric field because of a line segment at a point P which is located at a distance of, let us say, x. Okay. So over there, we were doing all sorts of calculation by taking a small line segment, doing all those integration, integrating it from minus a to plus a. So all this stuff we were carrying out. Okay. Now, by application of Gauss law, what is the procedure? The first procedure is that we have to draw a Gaussian surface which must enclose the charge distribution of this line segment, and please remember that surface must pass through the point through where we want to evaluate it. Now suppose I want to evaluate the electric field at the point P. Then remember this Gaussian surface must pass through the point P. Just have a look. Suppose let us say I want to evaluate what is the electric field at this point P, which is at a distance of radial distance of r from the straight line. So what I have to do? I have to draw a Gaussian surface in such a way that it must enclose the straight line symmetrically, number one. Number two, it must pass through the point where I want to evaluate the electric field. So if you understand these two steps, then everything is going to be very easy for you. Let us come to this example. Now suppose somebody will tell me, please find the electric field at the point Q because of this spherically charged distributed charge. Now what do you have to do? We have to draw a Gaussian surface, and over here the Gaussian surface is going to be a sphere, and this Gaussian surface must enclose the source of the charge, that is a sphere in this case, symmetrically, and it must pass through the point Q where we want to evaluate the electric field. So these two steps are enough to carry out the application of Gauss law. Is there any doubt over here? Please be very clear about this. So once you understand these two steps, nothing is difficult for you. Any symmetrical configuration, you can easily find it out. Is there any doubt? Yes or no? Okay, fine. So I have assumed that you all have understood it. Now, just have a look. Here we are having a uniform electric field, but here it is a non-uniform electric field. And from the very beginning, I have told you that previously in chapter number 21, we were only dealing with uniform electric field, but now onwards, we will also deal with non-uniform electric field. And one such case is this one. So here you can see the electric field is absolutely non-uniform. So even in this case, by application of Gauss law, we can easily find out the electric field at the point Q, right? The last one is not actually a procedure, it is just a precaution. The Gaussian surface must be perpendicular to E vector at every point on the surface. Okay, now you can see this Gaussian surface is perpendicular to the electric field line. Similarly, over here, this Gaussian surface or this electric field line is perpendicular to the Gaussian surface at each and every point. Now, this is bound to happen if you are taking the right Gaussian surface, because this Gaussian surface is going to enclose the charge distribution symmetrically. So if it is symmetrical in nature, obviously the electric field line is bound to become or make 90 degree with the surface. So hopefully everybody have understood the steps. Only two important steps you need to do, and the third one is only to ensure that everything, the two previous two steps are correct or not. So now let us see how we are going to apply. Now, so in the previous case, we have calculated the electric field due to a point charge, okay, by the regular method. First, what we did, we found the electric force, we brought a test charge. So previously, how we are doing? Previously, suppose I want to find the electric field at the point P. So for that, I have to place a charge, source charge at the center. Next, I have to bring a test charge and keep it at this point. Next, that test charge is going to experience a force of repulsion if it is positive charge. So we are calculating the force F0, then we are dividing it by the magnitude of the test charge, and ultimately we are getting the electric field. Lot of calculations. But now, just have a look at this. Only one or two lines is enough to find the electric field. So let us see how we are going to apply it. So just go through the picture. Over here, we are supposed to find the electric field at the point P. Okay, at the point P. Suppose the question is find the electric field because of a point charge Q, because of a point charge Q at a point located at a distance of r from the center of the point charge. So how to find it out? For that, what we did first is, so let us go through this. Let us evaluate the electric field at the point P at a radius of r from the source. That is a point charge in this case. So we draw a Gaussian surface enclosing the point charge symmetrically and passing through the point P. So for this, we have to draw a Gaussian surface, an imaginary Gaussian surface or an imaginary closed surface, which is going to completely enclose this point charge symmetrically, and it must pass through the point where we want to evaluate the electric field. So the point over here is P. So as you can see, the Gaussian surface is passing through the point P. Next, so in this case, the Gaussian surface is a sphere with radius r and the point charge located at the center of the sphere. Now just look at this. We know Gauss law says phi E is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon 0. Now what is the total charge that is enclosed by the Gaussian surface? It is equal to capital Q. So I have written Q over here divided by epsilon 0 as usual. Also we know, okay, just remember the generalized equation. Phi E is equal to the total surface, closed surface integral E vector dot dA vector. So now obviously equation 1 and equation 2 must be same. So from equation 1 and 2, Q by epsilon 0 is equal to the surface integral E vector dot dA vector. Now please do one thing. Here just write down S. S means closed surface integral. Okay. So q by epsilon 0 is equal to closed surface integral of E vector dot dA vector. Now let us evaluate this particular equation. So let us say this is equation 3 and let us evaluate it. So closed surface integral E vector dot dA vector is equal to, now E vector is constant. So let us take it outside. Now dA is the differential part. So we have to integrate this one. Now the integration of a closed surface, that is a sphere, how much it is? It is equal to 4 pi r square. So in for this integration of dA, I have written or replaced it by means of 4 pi r square. So so just look over here. I have not used any vector sign over here because while evaluation, I am not going to use any vector representation. So E 4 pi epsilon 4 pi r square is equal to Q by epsilon 0. So we are interested to find this E. So naturally, by some mathematical manipulation, you can see E is equal to Q by 4 pi r square epsilon 0. Or in vectorial form, we can write E vector is equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon 0, 4 pi r square epsilon 0, A r cap. What is this A r cap? As you can see, this electric field is always directed in the direction of the radius. Okay, it is directed in the direction of the radius. Okay, and it is moving outwards because it is a positive charge. So over here I have written AR cap. Now if it would have been a negative charge, so either I could have written it as minus Q by 4 pi r square epsilon 0, or I could have written it as Q 4 pi r square epsilon 0 minus A r cap. So both the way you are going to get the same answer. Okay. So either I will replace the Q with minus Q, or I will replace the means your unit vector by minus A r cap. Just see, with just two lines you have got the value of the or expression of the electric field at a distance of r from the charge. Now let us see how we have derived in the last case. So let us try to compare both the methods. Okay, let us try to compare. Just have a look. The same equation we are getting, but now this is a little bit tedious because first we brought a charge Q, placed it over here. Next we have to bring a test charge. Next we have to evaluate the force, and ultimately we have to divide it by the magnitude to get this E vector. Okay. Now the same expression Q by 4 pi epsilon 0, I have missed out a R over here. Okay, R square. Okay, is it R square? Yes, it is R square. So Q by 4 pi R square epsilon 0 A R cap. Okay, so the same expression you are also getting it over here. Okay, but the number of steps have reduced and it is more simple than the previous method. Now, let us have a comparison for a line charge. Okay. So just have a look how we were calculating the electric field at a distance of x from a line segment. Just see how much calculations we are doing. First slide, then this is your second slide, then this is your third slide. We require so long a derivation. Okay. Now you will see the magic of this Gauss law. Just see. Just see this slide. Electric field due to a line charge. It is only taking 2 steps to solve it. Now just make a comparison and you people you for yourself see. So you are requiring so many calculations previously. First slide, then you are taking the second slide, so much calculation. Then you have to do that integration by trigonometric substitution. Then you have to convert it back to the components x, y, and ultimately you are getting this figure. Now everything is going to boil down very simply. Now look over here. Okay, so now let us see how we have done it. Electric field due to a line charge. Now, let lambda is equal to charge per length in coulomb per meter. Okay. Let us evaluate the electric field at the point P at a distance of r. So, basically what I am going to do, I have to find the electric field at a radial distance r from the straight line. Let that point be P. So I have to evaluate the electric field at the point P, which is at a radial distance of r from the straight line. So for that, what is the first step? The first step is to draw the Gaussian surface in such a way that it is going to symmetrically enclose the line as well as it must pass through the point P. For that, obviously, I am going to get a Gaussian surface, okay, which is going to have a radius of r. Now, the line segment is having a length, let us say L. So the line segment is having a length L, let us say. Okay. So this cylinder or Gaussian surface must pass through, or it must be having a radius of r, length of L, and it must have the line over here passing through its radial axis or the center. Okay. So this is the Gaussian surface. Now the same procedure. So from Gauss law, partial Gauss law, we know phi E is equal to Q enclosed by epsilon 0. So what is the charge that is enclosed by the Gaussian surface? It is lambda into L, because lambda is the charge per unit length multiplied with L is going to give you the total charge that is enclosed by the Gaussian surface. So over here I have written at it as lambda L by epsilon 0. Again, from generalized Gauss law, we know phi E is equal to closed surface integral E vector dot dA vector. Now equation 1 and 2 both are same. So from here we have to equate it, and as you can see, this closed surface integral of E vector dot dA vector. So over here, if we are going for a closed surface integral of this dA, naturally what is the value or the expression? It is 2 pi RL. Okay, so the curved surface, please remember, this upper one is not going to be considered, because as I told you while clearing your doubt, no flux is supposed to come out from this tip. So we are not taking that surface. If instead of this line segment I had a cylinder, then I would have considered these two surfaces. But since it is a simple line segment or it is a simple line charge, I am not going to consider the top portion or the top surface and the bottom surface, only the curved surface. Okay, so the area of the curved surface is 2 pi RL. So if we will equate both of them, now let us equate these two, we will see that this L and this L gets cancelled out because L is not 0. So ultimately we are interested for E. So E is equal to lambda by 2 pi R epsilon 0. So if we are writing it in a vector notation, we will get this expression. E vector is equal to lambda by 2 pi R epsilon 0 A R cap. Why A R cap? It is because it is radially moving out. That means it is moving in the direction of the radius. Okay. Similarly, if it would have been negatively charged, then I would have written either I would have replaced this lambda by means of minus lambda, or I would have replaced this AR cap by means of minus AR cap. So in both the way, I can express the expression for your electric field at a point P, which is located radially at a distance of R from the line charge. Okay. So is there any doubt? Is there any doubt? I hope everybody have understood it. Okay, fine. So we'll stop our class over here. But before that,
So,
yes,
so today's lab will be a live class or a recorded?
it will be a recorded class. Okay, so please keep your earplugs ready. Okay,
Yes, sir.
and there are 5 number of videos, one after the other. I will play it because my mobile is having a limited memory, so I could not means record it with one go. So I have made 5 number of videos, each of maximum 15 to 20 minutes, and the total length of the video is around 1 hour something. So I hope this will be useful to you. After playing the one video, I'll interact with you people. If you have any doubt, then I'll play the other video. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And moreover, as I told you, there is a request, as I am having a class from 12 to 1 and a lab from, from 1 to 2 and a consecutive lab from 2 to 4. I will just take 10 to 15 minutes to have my lunch. So once I have my lunch, I'll play the video, and you people please log in at 2 o'clock sharp. I may log in at something around 2:10 or 2:15, but please be ready online by 2 o'clock, right? And another important thing, please have your earplugs, your amplifier or your headphone, everything ready. The voice may be a little bit of low intensity. Okay. So we'll stop our class over here. Please be online. Let me take a print screen. You all may leave my class.